RPGA Day 2019, Day 8. The prompt for today is obscure. So I'm not even going to try and get clever with this like Anthony did, like RuneSlinger did. So I'm just going to go for obscure games. Now, two different games pop to mind. I've been kind of doing this for the last couple of questions, right? Two things pop into my mind. So, two obscure games. One is published in 1990, and it is Buck Rogers' 25th Century by TSR. It looks like pulp, but it was surprisingly, here you go. It was surprisingly hard sci-fi for its time. It introduced me to a lot of concepts like digital personalities and smart clothing and the concept of a space elevator and terraforming and genetically engineering populations to go with the environment and for the colonization of other planets within the solar system. The entire game takes place within the solar system. And if we look here at the, here we go, character and combat guide, we find that the game design credits go to one Mike Pondsmith, who might be familiar, creator of Cyberpunk and the newest Cyberpunk Red and the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 computer game. As for the mechanics, I never really played it. I used it for the lore because, again, way back in 1990, it taught me a lot about what was at the time modern hard sci-fi. If I were to play something like that these days, something like the Expanse TV show, I'd be using Shadow of the Beanstalk for the Genesis role-playing system. But if you wanted some source books describing, say, Mars or colonies in the belt or the outer planets, I would definitely look to the Buck Rogers 25th Century RPG as some source material and some nice maps for those colonies as well. So the second obscure game that comes to mind was written in 1995, also Wizards of the Coast, and it is Everway, a diceless game which utilizes among its there's three basic conflict resolution. There's one system, but it follows an algorithm, right? Drama, karma, and fortune. So, you look at the stats, and if one guy should win, that guy wins. If not, what is the dramatically appropriate conclusion? It was very visionary in its age. It was a story game. That guy wins the conflict. If it's not drama of who should win, because it's dramatically appropriate, it should be karma, who wins because of their stats are better. And if not, you go with fortune. And that's where the fortune deck comes in. It's sort of a little tarot deck, which contemplates, normal positions and reverse positions of the cards. It has things such as the creator. If this card, there we go. If this card pops up in the correct orientation, right, it reads nurture. If it shows up reversed in your spread, it says abandonment. And, you're supposed to use the art and the actual words on it to interpret results for conflicts and for a lot of things. It is a dimensional hopping game where you travel through different planes. So if you're a fan of the Amber series of novel by Zelazny, and yes, I am aware that the Diceless RPG, the Amber Diceless, is out there. It's sitting right there on a shelf with all the supplements, but this is another way to do it. It's also a game heavily based in art, where you would have a bunch of cards created by the game developers, and by looking at the cards, you were supposed to draw inspiration for settings and for planes and for making new adventures. There's good news and bad news. The bad news is that this game is so obscure that it's out of print and it's hard to get. And sometimes it'll pop up on eBay or Amazon for a reasonable price, and you can get it. And the most important bit, the cards, the fortune deck. But the good news is that this game is currently under development for a second edition. So at any point, I expect a Kickstarter to show up with Everway second edition. So that's it, guys. Obscure Games. See you tomorrow.